Hello, welcome back to the Recruitment Hackers Podcast. I'm your host, Max Sombrister. And today on the show, I'm super happy to welcome Adam Chambers, who is the founder, CEO of Applichat Healthcare. Applichat is a company I first found about on another podcast, the Chat and Cheese, and was one of the first companies, along with mine, to move into the chatbot space and applying chatbots specifically to the challenges of sourcing and sourcing on social media. Since then, Adam has focused his company on the booming healthcare sector, which has gone through so much changes in the last year. And we're here to talk to him about sourcing and how to source for nurses and healthcare professionals and anything else that where the conversation might take us. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Thank you so much. To everyone listening, I just want to say Max is amazing and really helped me with my career. So you should keep listening to the show and buy.
Thanks. Buy my stuff. Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm not selling on this show. I'm using it to remind ourselves that recruitment never stops changing, and to stay abreast of what people are doing and maybe get a couple of ideas for my own business, as I hope some of the listeners will. So for the people who are new to Applichat and Applichat Healthcare as newly rebranded, can you say in your own words what you guys do?
Yeah, so we really specialize in connecting nurses and employers in under 48 hours. So that's our main sort of USP, because whenever it comes to job search as a nurse, you have 4 or 5 different options. The one that's going to give you an offer quickest is usually the one that you're going to take. Like, they don't have time to mess about. So what we do is we make that application process, like you do with your chatbots, simple as possible. 60 seconds, 5 to 10 questions. And then we immediately get them in front of a recruiter at one of our clients. So it's an instantaneous process.
Before it hits the ATS?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, before even they sent a resume, we try and call them within 1 hour. Get them one we sent on Friday. So today's Monday. We sent one on Friday and she just got made a job offer today. So that's 2 working days. We can say to the nurses that we are the best because we have these relationships with our clients where we can move you. And then to the clients, we say nurses want to be moved quickly, so we're going to do that for them.
The time element with nurses, is it more acute than, I guess, other jobs? I guess the time element becomes more pressing the lower the salaries are, it seems like. The people who are the less paid on the great pyramid of things are the ones who need the money the most and the highest time pressure, I suppose, to act on things. But generally speaking, I would imagine that healthcare workers presently are very well paid, that they would be in the comfortable category.
Yeah, I think a nurse could expect to get $70,000 a year, depending on where they are. It's an average. The speed thing is not so much that they need the money, it's more so that the employers need them. So they'll make 4 or 5 applications, and then it's a matter of sort of who can get to them first. So I think there's like data to back it up, where the first employer you speak to, the first one you interview to, the first facility you visit has an improved impression compared to the other ones. So that's why it's so important to be the first one to get to an active job seeking nurse, because he or she will already have 4 or 5 applications and maybe a couple of offers by the time you speak to them.
Absolutely. So I think, that's true for most jobs, and certainly in a hot market like this, it's a race. So the diss on social media and social media sourcing is that, you can get leads, but they're not good quality leads. I mean, these people don't even pick up the phone. They're not qualified candidates. How do you work around that objection? And what are your thoughts on social media versus job boards?
I think if you could get 100 applicants from Indeed, more would get higher than the 100 that you get from Facebook. So I don't think it's a black and white case of saying that social media doesn't work for recruiting. It's a spectrum. Social media works for recruiting. You just need to get more candidates. That's actually a good match, because 70-75% of nurses at least will go on Facebook or Instagram every single month, compared to what 5-10% go on Indeed. So you've got a bigger market of candidates, but less competition when it comes to employers. Although the spectrum range is from just looking to ready to apply on social media, the fact that there is that portion of ready to apply means you can still make placements, and just as many placements as from job board. You just need to get more people. And at the same time, that perception of like rubbish leads who don't pick up the phone I think is ingrained into people because they're so used to getting their candidates from Indeed or through the career site. Like people who take those steps to find a job and they don't know how to lead. Like they don't even call it a lead in our space, at least. They just see it as a nurse who isn't interested. Whereas we know, like, you have to market to those people and you have to send them emails and a text every so often and like build a candidate pool, and then you can use those. So
Okay. So you're building the talent pool by getting their attention, but once you've got them looking, it may take a few ads, a few messages before you can activate them into a job seeker.
yeah, it's more like a few months, and sometimes none of them will, but you have to do something with it.
Yeah, that's how to make the economics work, is to have that re-engagement strategy. So yeah, maybe from practically speaking, what are the initial steps if somebody says, I don't want to create competitors for Applichat, but
Okay,
if somebody says, I'm a healthcare provider, I want to hire some nurses and I haven't tried, I don't know, Facebook and Instagram, is that where you're advertising?
So, I mean, we don't really talk about it like in those presentations whenever we're selling to someone, because if we say the word Facebook, like that has so many connotations to them that it sort of drags them away from the point. Yeah. But if we are advertising there, like we use that traffic that go onto that site, advertise to them. So that's how we utilize it.
Okay. Yeah. I think most marketplaces are the same way. Everybody goes to the same places to get traffic, which is, you go where the people are, which is TikTok or Facebook or Instagram. And then you drive people to a website. So you've stopped maybe doing the whole native lead capturing where you do everything on Facebook and now you drive them to a more, I'd say, traditional website.
Yeah, well, it depends what channel we're advertising on. So if, for example, if we're doing it on Instagram, like they make it really easy for someone to input their information like natively. But if it's on YouTube, it's better if you send them off the YouTube on the website. So it really depends, I think, on how people are used to using and then what like technology the channel provides to enable you to take advantage of the people who are using it. Not in a bad way, not sounding bad. Take advantage of their behaviors.
For example, with retargeting or being able to, to organize the profiles in categories.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Retargeting is good. It comes back to like the spectrum I was talking about. If someone isn't ready to apply, then it would be a good idea to retarget them with an ad which acknowledges that. So if, for example, you have TalkPush as a CRM, for example, a candidate's been stuck on a stage for a couple of weeks, then adding them to a certain campaign which has a message directed to people who are still thinking about it is a much smarter way to advertise than just like pushing jobs out to people who aren't listening.
And for example, that kind of content would be, a video about, career reconversion, or would you advertise directly some employer branding material with some videos about this is why it's so great to work here? How do you do it in a more subtle way than just push job description?
Yeah, there's two useful ways. So the first is what you mentioned, employer branding stuff. Stories of real people really resonate well with nurses because a lot of them have a calling to care for people. So they really value personal connection, and also they value the opinions of other nurses more than anything. So personal stories like the people speaking to the camera, or you can just sort of call a spade and say like, hey, we saw you clicked on our ad recently, still thinking about it, and just sort of call that out and then revisit some of the reasons why they might have clicked the ad in the first place.
Right. Reminders and retargeting that way. I agree with you that these personal stories would be great sort of bait. And for Applichat, are you bringing stories when you're doing marketing? You bring stories from your different customers in the healthcare space and you go straight to the candidates to share their stories, or you have more targeted campaigns that are customer specific? Is it branded Applichat or is it branded for?
Yeah, I think if like you got to tell the story of the place they'll work and the people that they all work with. So they don't really care so much about our process and how we help them. They care about like what their life will be like in this new job. So you want to like show them what it could be like, show them that beautiful reflection, which could be them if they do it.
That initial lead that you engage with. So if somebody wants to get started on sourcing on social media and they want to make their own mistakes and they want to figure it out without going through your company, how would you advise them to get started, to get more familiar with social media sourcing? What would be step one?
So step one, get $100 from someone. Just because you always have to think like of the practicalities first, I find. So in the past, I've done webinars on using Facebook for jobs, but you need to think about the practicalities and the setting. So you need to get approval from someone, and $100 or a small budget from someone who has decision-making authority, and say, I want to try this new thing. And then it's just a case of sort of going on Google and YouTube and looking up how to create ads on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. Follow that through, create an ad. I think the most important thing is that your ad shouldn't be a job description. It should be offer, because on these sites, you're not competing with their retirement home next door or hospital next door. You're competing with Coca-Cola and McDonald's and everyone trying to sell everyone else stuff. So it's so important that you are able to catch people's eye, awaken something inside them, make them feel a bit of emotion. And you can't do that with a job description which says the working hours, the responsibilities. You have to come in with the pain points, the potential solutions. So for example, one of our ads is for a relocation to North Carolina. We're targeting travel nurses. So we will go out with a message to those travel nurses that talks about how they might be tired of moving about so much, that talks about how they might be frustrated with the inconsistency of their lives, and then comes in with the opportunity to get that consistency, stop moving about, and still live somewhere which is beautiful.
Put your life in order and go watch the beautiful trees as autumn comes to North Carolina, like a travel ad.
Yeah, we need to, recruiters need to go away from the science of numbers. Well, numbers are important, but don't just say the facts, tell the story as well. We need to move towards being poets and artists and writers. I think we need to think of ourselves as higher than recruiters, because we are doing something more than just creating jobs and filling jobs. I think that
everything that you just said is quite opposite to some of the advice I've been delivering myself, which is, in some markets, very direct advertising. Just don't forget to put the salary, don't forget to be very specific, because you don't want to mislead candidates into not knowing what they're looking for. But I'm thinking more about active job seekers. Even before that, you're opening their mind to the possibility of a different career, relocation. And still today, I think Facebook and Instagram or YouTube, they don't allow you to target specifically job seekers, right? It's not like you have a cookie on their browser and you know that they were on Indeed and Zip last week.
Yeah, you need to target them with what you say in the ad. So that's why you need something that's going to make them.
Yeah. Great. Well, I think we've got some great bits of information and advice here for our audience. So thanks a lot, Adam, for sharing. And how can people get a hold of you and Applichat if they're in the healthcare space and looking for help in hiring more nurses?
Just add me on LinkedIn, Chambers, Chambers.
Great.
That's it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for joining.
All right. Thank you for inviting me. Cheers.
If you're sourcing on social media, the best thing to do is to tell a story. More so than in other medium, a job description won't do it alone. You need to tell the story of the people whose life you're going to affect. Adam Chambers has been doing that for nurses, but the same holds true for other professions. Hope you found this interview inspiring, that you got something out of it, and that you'll be back for more. Remember to subscribe and share.